Today we are reviewing this 2001 BMW Z8. I'm Justin.
And I am Aaron.
And this is Husman Bros. Before we go too much further, please subscribe for more great content like this down below. So,
it's good to have friends in low places.
It's good to have friends in high places too. This is a car that a friend of mine gave me to do a review because he's a big Husman Bros fan. And I hate to say this out loud, but this might be more beautiful than the Jaguar.
I am honestly not much of a BMW guy, but this is the BMW for me. This has always been such a cool car since I first saw it in the James Bond movie when I was a kid. I have been in love with this car. I'm super stoked that we got a chance to review this today.
Now, before we go too much further, I am gonna step back and show you this car because really, more than anything, this car is about the design. So just take a look at this thing. What a beauty. This car was designed by Henrik Fisker. The late 90s, early 2000s were retro time, and this car is part of that trend. This is designed to look like the BMW 507, to recall that car. If you think of all the companies that were doing retro designs at that point, Ford Thunderbird, Jaguar XK8, VW Beetle.
I think the Mustang came out with their retro Mustang.
It was about the same time.
So out of all those cars that they put out in the early 2000s, and there were some cool ones, I think it's safe to say that the BMW absolutely nailed it with their design. This car is supposed to resemble a 1956 BMW Roadster, and if you look at this car all the way through, it absolutely does. Looks absolutely fantastic.
So this is an all aluminum bodied car.
Absolutely.
And so how much does it weigh?
It weighs just under 3,500 pounds.
Okay, and it has the same drivetrain as the M5 of this era.
That's right.
How much power are we putting out?
So this thing puts out 400 horsepower, 370 foot-pounds of torque out of a 4.9 liter V8.
And it is a fun car to drive as a result, I'll tell you.
Like we talked about, beautiful car, but you don't see them that often because they didn't make very many of them. 5,703 of these made worldwide while they were making Z8s.
And about 3,500 in this standard color scheme. So let's talk about the aluminum body on this car. There were some challenges with the aluminum body at first. And so BMW actually had to issue a recall because if you hit too bumpy a road, these shock towers, which are aluminum, they could fold in. And if you look at some of them that didn't get the BMW recall fix, this body line could be very narrow because the cars got squished up. The former owner, this is the official BMW brace here, but he had it chromed, and I think he did a great job. The more I learn about the guy who used to own this car, the more I wish I'd had a chance to meet him. Just an interesting cat.
The great thing about this car, I don't know that I've heard many cars with a hood that shuts as nicely as that.
It's a solid feeling car,
Absolutely.
Aluminum or not. So if we go back to the inside here, simple is what I would say about the inside. Now this car is mostly stock. A couple of changes from original. One, he chromed that brace. This has a short shift kit. They reversed the tach and the speedometer because he thought that's how it should have been laid out. Other than that, this car is stock. Now, this one doesn't have the boot with it. The owner has it, but it's not with us today. And there's also a windscreen that goes between the headrests here. And if we go to the back here, this is one of my favorite parts of this car is the way it comes to a narrow point in the back. It's just beautiful. One of the more unique features of this car is that rather than normal bulbs or even LEDs, this car actually has neon taillights. Also has neon turn signals in front. They're supposed to last the lifetime of the car. So there was a while when these cars were not as popular here in the United States as they are now, so a lot of them were being purchased and shipped back to Europe. There is actually one guy who cornered the market on European neon taillights for these, because the European taillights have red on top and amber on the bottom. So if you're buying one of these cars to ship back to Europe, you're gonna meet that guy, which is a fun fact.
So this car is beautiful from the inside to the outside. Inside, you've got this great banjo steering wheel, very old school look to it. And then this dash wraps around. Nice continuous line from the door panel all the way through to the dash. And driving this car is really unique with the speedometer and the tach in the middle of the dashboard. Of course, you could still see them, they're not far away, but it gives you this great aesthetic. The view that you've got from the driver's seat of this car, you just see this nice gray dash material going into the hood. It reminds me of some of the old classic British cars and also American cars with all of the Art Deco style. But the design for the view for the driver is designed to be mostly hood. It really looks great, the lines on the front of the car, but they wanted the driver to really be able to see all of that hood. It looks fantastic. Very clean in the center console here. Not a whole lot going on, not a whole lot of buttons. The radio is hidden away, so you don't have anything to distract you while you're driving. You can just focus on the driving. BMW is all about building driving machines, and they built one here. Now, this car is a bit of a time capsule. For some of you kids watching, you may not have any idea that cars actually at one time could be purchased with a cell phone in the car. In the advent of the cell phone age, that was one of the novelties with buying a car. You could get one with the cell phone in it. This one is no exception. It's a luxury vehicle. Someone who bought a BMW Z8 is probably an important person, has phone calls to make and things to do. As such, they have available a phone in the console. And not just any phone, one of the best phones of its day, the 2001 Motorola flip phone days, complete with BMW branding. Now, this is absolutely fantastic and obsolete, useless, I might add, but still, it's a cool thing to have. I had a Lexus at one point with a big phone in the console, and I always thought that was pretty funny. Another thing we've got, I know these days we all have iPhones in our pockets to play our music, but back in 2001, you did not have such a thing. You had a flip phone which had no music on it whatsoever. So this one was already built in for an iPod. So it has the cord already built in. Just get yourself an iPod or maybe even a Nano. In those days, you might have been new age, and then you've got it right here, and you can play whatever music you want from your very, very simple radio that is right here. This does also have GPS. So it has turn-by-turn direction, no map available, but it will at least tell you where you're going and where your next turn is. With cars of this era, the GPS is pretty obsolete because it hasn't been updated in probably a long time. It cost a lot to get the CD or the program that you needed to update it. But just some of the interesting old school features from this 2001.
Now, the guy who owned this car has sadly passed away, but he really, really loved it. And he's got a collection of stuff in the trunk, a lot of toys that we're not going to bother to show you, but there are some things I wanted to pull out. So this is a Z8 badge with Denon's autograph on it, which is kind of a big deal. I like this guy, and I want him. I wish I could have met him because he went out and chromed his license plate. And he drove with his license plates in Texas like this for quite some time until the police pulled him over enough and said, "You've got to stop or we're going to take you to jail." That was when he started putting regular license plates on it. Now, the last thing that I wanted to point out that comes with this car in particular and came with this car is the build book. So you see we've got the VIN plate here. A picture of this car on the assembly line as it was finished, and then various information about the car. It's a beautiful book. This book in and of itself sells for about $3,000 when you can find one on eBay. So this car will be for sale on Bring a Trailer soon, so look out for that. If you're in the market, it's here for you. Should you buy it? Let's talk about what you should think about when you buy one of these cars. The only thing left is to drive it. I think we need to do that. Let's go. As we said, this car has a short shifter kit in it. When I first drove it, I'm not sure if I loved it. I don't think I would love it if it were a daily driver car for me, but it sure makes it feel fancy. And this car really feels refined. It feels vastly different from any of the other convertibles I've had, and I've had a bunch. Jaguar, the Porsche, I had a Mustang, so this is a solid feeling car for a little Roadster convertible, and it gets up and goes. Now, back in the early 2000s, the fancy car companies hadn't yet figured out how to make the exhaust button work the way they do now, so you can be a bad neighbor at the touch of a button. And it's kind of sad because I suspect that with the right exhaust, this car would sound absolutely killer. This car feels really solid for a little roadster like this. It doesn't feel like it's going to rattle apart. My Jaguar, my Porsche, both of those cars have their rattles. They're both the same age and they don't feel as solid as this one. Now, Jaguar's got a lot more miles on it. The Porsche's in this same neighborhood and it feels a little rattlier than this car. This was built for luxury and for solidness. When you spent the kind of money this car cost new, you wanted something that really felt like it. This was $123,000 in 2001, which was no small chunk of change at the time. The cockpit of this car is worth talking about. It was designed to evoke the old days. It's like the whole car was designed that way. And these smooth stretches of dash here, the painted body parts, we have a 997 with a painted console and it's incredible, but all of this paint just feels like old cars. I grew up driving Volkswagens and so much metal in the cockpits of those cars, and this has that same feeling to it. It just feels purpose-built and it feels perfect. So this is a manual 6-speed transmission. These cars only came with manuals and I can't imagine driving it any other way. Part of the joy in this car is shifting through these gears and really letting it go. One thing we didn't talk about is this car does have a hardtop. They all came with hardtops, and we haven't put the convertible top up on this because it's a finicky operation, but when the convertible top is up, it feels tall. I won't say it ruins the lines of the car, but it certainly changes it quite a bit. If you look, and we'll put up a picture now of this car with the hardtop on it, it was designed so that it looked right with the hardtop, which they did a great job with that too. I just can't find anything to fault about this car other than the fact that I don't have enough subscribers to buy it from the guy that's selling it right now. When you're driving this, all that hood, it just looks incredible. There's one of the things that I love about my Jaguar, and it's probably the car I would compare the most to this, although different leagues really, but all that hood really makes you feel a certain kind of way when you're driving a car like this. For you young money players, let me speak your language. You got to rizz up a this is the whip, no cap. Just an amazing car. You know, it feels like they thought of everything, and really, again, the only complaint I have is that I can't afford to buy this car right now, because I would buy it and just look at it. I think this is one of the cars that is truly, truly a blue chip investment level car that a lot of people don't think about when they should be. We're back at the garage. There are a couple more things we want to tell you about this car. So if you're looking to buy a car like this, or this car, it will be on Bring a Trailer soon, there's some things that you should know before you go on that search. What an amazing drive. We don't have video of Aaron driving this one, but we went for a drive earlier, and what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, well, I love driving this. This is fantastic. Obviously, this is a Grand Tourer, but like I said, always loved this car. Love to look at it. Driving it, fantastic. The short shift is a little interesting, and it was interesting to get used to. Very mechanical.
I don't think I'd want to drive this car daily with a short shifter, but then again, I don't know that I would drive this car daily. So how does it compare to the other convertibles we've got? We've got the Jaguar, we've got the 911s, and we've got this.
That's the thing. I mean, against the 911, it's a different kind of car. This is a Tourer, and so it's really tough to compare a 911 versus this. Obviously, I would take this every day over the 911 that I got, at least.
Well, so there is a better comparison between this and the Jaguar XK8, because the XK8 is another Tourer.
That is one.
I love my XK8, and I know it's not sentient, so I know it won't hear what I'm saying, but This is a better car. That XK8 compared to this feels like a floppy piece of paper running down the road. This is so solid for such a little car.
I hate to say a Jaguar is a jalopy, but man, this car sure makes it feel like one.
It absolutely does, and I don't want to say that out loud. So, what are the things you should look at if you're in the market for one of these cars? There's a couple things. The interior pocket glue will fall off. It's not a big deal.
23 years old.
Sure.
Glue gets old, it happens.
The seat backs fall off as well. There is another part, and I'm not going to put it up, but you have guide wires in the top that can rot out. They're just string. And so these have been replaced on this one, but that is another thing you should look out for. Really, maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. As with any high dollar car, maintenance is what you should be looking for. What are the records like? Who owned it before you? And all that good stuff. If you're buying one of these, it's going to be expensive to repair.
But this car is going to go for at least $150,000, and I would expect probably more than that based on the past sales. Let's be real. If you're in the market for a $150,000 car, you really should not concern yourself with how much it's going to cost to maintain. Otherwise, you really just shouldn't buy it. This is a collector's item. It's going to be worth...
It was built to be a collector's item.
It's only been worth more every time I've looked at these cars.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, thanks for watching today. This has been great fun. If you have a car you'd like us to review in our own special way, drop a comment down below. We'd love to have you out here to the garage and review your car. Thanks so much for watching.
Come back and see us.